Welcome to The Lock Shop with Nielsen and Hustler, powered by Coolbet Canada.
What's up, Lock Shoppers? Happy Friday. Welcome to the program. Huss and JBM, Jake Bolin Moss from Coolbet today, diving into our best bets for week 2 in the National Football League. We'll get Dusty's picks as well, and maybe put together a little banger for the people in the exclusives before we finish up the program today. Jake, what's going on? How are you?
I'm doing pretty well, Huss. I'm fired up. I mean, football is back. Like, I was saying this to Dusty on EST yesterday. Tuesday and Wednesday are like the worst days of the week because I'm just sitting there like, where's my football? Like, I need football. It's like, it's honestly, I mean, it could be worse, right? Like, you could have worse addictions, but I'm addicted to football. I love it. I love betting on it, responsibly, obviously, staying cool. But yeah, it's a great time of the year. Little bit of college tonight to get me into tomorrow. Heavy college slate, and then Sunday we got the NFL. I know we're going to get into some picks today. Busy show. I mean, a lot of NFL to cover. So.
Well, no doubt about it. Yeah, and if you want to fire off any of the college picks, we'll have some time for that as well. Dusty's, of course, on the road. He's doing BC Toronto tonight in the Canadian Football League. We'll get his picks, and as I say, we'll put something together. I have to peel the curtain back for our loyal listeners. I pop into the link and get in ready to go. Right as Jake is in the middle of rolling out the scenarios of the New England Patriots playing playoff football. It's been quite a week for the Pats and the AFC East. Obviously, we'll get to last night's game and the really scary play of Tua, but the Pats Nation, they're not just taking the first overall pick. We're looking to make some noise right now. And not to mention, they did kill probably about 80-85% of survivor pools last week. You got to be pumped at the first win in the Jared Mayo era.
Yeah, Mayo's got the boys playing behind him. You can't ask for much more. Obviously, it's a little delusional to think the Pats are going to be a playoff team, especially with how stacked the AFC is. But, it's unfortunate. You see Tua go down last night with another concussion, and it's like, I believe it's like the fourth one he's had in the last few years. And you worry about the guy's health before anything. But yeah, I was walking today and I'm like, well, that might put Miami out of it. Skylar Thompson, I'm not necessarily somebody who I think can lead the Dolphins to the playoffs. The Jets, the jury's still out on the Jets. I think the Bills win that division, but we'll have to see what happens this week with the Patriots in Seattle. But with them coming last year, the schedule is a touch easier for them. Obviously, they do have to play the Bills twice, but now they get the Dolphins twice, likely without a starting quarterback. And like I said, I'm not sure. He's split with the Jets, and I don't know. It's delusional to think they're going to make the playoffs, but I don't think they're going to be the last place team like everyone expected them to be. We saw how bad the Panthers still look last week. We saw how bad the New York Giants look. I feel a lot better than New York Giants fans. I'll tell you that right now.
That was ugly. Poor Danny Dimes grows a beard, comes into training camp expecting a much better season than last year, and absolutely not. They got worked by Sammy Darts and the Minnesota Vikings. Vikings have a big game against the 49ers coming out of it. What was your takeaways from the Jets? I mean, you're in the division. You watch all these games. Like, I'll be honest, I still actually am pretty high on the Jets. I think their offense looked good at times. That was a really, really tough spot. San Francisco's always had Aaron Rodgers' number. My big takeaway, though, was I expected a lot more from the Jet defense on Monday night. Like, they just simply could not stop the run. They had 20 minutes time of possession.
Yeah, I don't think, it's so tough after week one. Like, you want to make these big, predictions and, what the rest of the season is going to look like. I just think San Fran's a pure juggernaut. I think Kyle Shanahan offense is always going to find a way to score points. Like, they were able to do it on the ground with Jordan Mason. What a game from him in the absence of Christian McCaffrey. And it sets up a great spot for play action. let's see how the Jets look against, some of the more middle tier teams. And then, you got a whole season to bolster that defense and get it to where you want it. I wouldn't be too worried if you're a Jets fan just yet because, San Fran, frankly, it's, you could argue the best team in the NFC alongside the Detroit Lions and argue the best team in the NFL. They went to the Super Bowl last year. Let's not forget. I know Christian McCaffrey was hurt this past week, but this is a Super Bowl team at the end of the day, even with Brock Purdy. So I wouldn't be too down on the Jets just yet. I think, that's why I said the jury's still out on the Jets. I think they could still win some football games here. I just want to see kind of what they look like against more middle tier talent. Oh, I don't know if I lost you, Huss. I don't know if you can still hear me.
Sorry about that. That was the mic.
Yeah, you're good.
The Jets are playing on a short week, 3.5-point favorites in Tennessee against the Titans. We'll roll through all these in a minute. Last night, this was not a great, listen, I think we all expected a lot of Josh Allen. Ended up being the James Cook show. Great if you're a James Cook fantasy owner. I did have the Bills on the money line and on the spread. I'll tell you what, we were at the baseball game last night here in Winnipeg and kind of following it along the line, and we looked like we were destined for the over that we thought was coming at 48.5 that I thought was way too low. Miami never really got things going. And then obviously with that injury to Tua, it was Buffalo didn't need to do much more than that. What did you make of last night from the Bills side of things? And then we can kind of get into where the Miami Dolphins go from here.
Sure, yeah. Listen, the Bills have owned the Dolphins, and that continued last night. Even before Tua went down, they were getting in his face. They were creating problems. He struggled to get the ball out to his guys. Not big games from really anybody. If you look at that receiving yards list for the Dolphins, Waddle had 41. I think one of their running backs actually led the team in receiving last night. So one of those things where it's I don't know. The Bills just own the Dolphins for whatever reason. That's what we saw last night. I thought James Cook looked great. It's going to be a weird comparison because he played so many years. But I look at Josh Allen and I think about some of those teams that Brady had and all the talk about, he's got no weapons. It's just finding a way to get the ball to the guys and, getting first downs, getting into position to score. Their fourth down play call on that first touchdown to James Cook was perfectly drawn up. Sometimes that's all that you really need. A guy that can get the ball to the playmakers on the field and let them do what they can. It doesn't matter if you got guys like Diggs and stuff. You just got to find ways to win football games. It doesn't always have to be pretty. And the Bills did that, pretty easily last night with some big defensive plays. And then obviously, like you said, a huge game from James Cook.
Yeah, Richard Croft in chat. What's up, Richard? He's under 50 passing yards for Allen in the second half. He started killing the clock halfway through the second quarter. Yeah, the numbers in the games are very pedestrian. Josh Allen went for 139 yards and threw for 1 touchdown. And he only ran twice for 2 yards. Tua had 17 yards. Shout out to Matt Iwanek, who I did believe had the Tua over rushing prop as part of the EST parlay from yesterday. But, Shane had a pretty good game. 22 carries for 96 yards. Not bad at all. And Shane was actually the leading receiver as well, with 69 yards and a touchdown. Very quiet night for Tyreek Hill, 24 yards. Jalen Waddle, 41 yards. And, now we look at this team moving forward. And, obviously the conversation, Jake, is all about Tua. But, considering the injuries that he's had and the concussions that he's had before, and honestly, he's had some of the scariest concussions that we've seen. For him to be in that situation last night, I'm not sure that we see him for a while. And to be honest, I think it's a very fair question to ask. Should Tua continue to play in the NFL when he recovers from this?
Yeah, ultimately it's going to be up to him. personally, I think that's probably. I don't want to really see him back out there. I'm a little nervous, to be honest with you. Like, especially the way the hand we saw that hand motion again, and I read something this morning that's like a slight loss of consciousness. Like, I don't know how truthfully that is, but something you don't want to continue to see. And for a guy who's got his whole life ahead of him, he got paid, he got a guaranteed contract. Like, he's going to be okay. I'd be totally fine with him stepping away if that's what he chose to do. But like, ultimately, at the end of the day, that's going to be up to him. And it's unfortunate to see a guy go down like that, especially with the history he's had in the last couple of years.
Let's just before we transition over to the NFL with the best bets, quick look at the college football. By the way, has Patty recovered from that Notre Dame game last week? I did not bring it up on the show when he joined us on Monday. We had so much to talk about. But, I mean, how did they lose? What is it, a 28.5-point favorite to Northern Illinois? They actually looked pretty good at the start.
They paid Northern Illinois to lose to them, which isn't a good look for Notre Dame. I have another friend who's a Notre Dame fan who texted me, and he's like, get this quarterback out of here. Like, this is awful to watch. And I'm just like, yeah, it's unfortunate. Luckily for Notre Dame, like, their schedule is relatively easy going forward. Like, there's still a path for them. I think people can definitely put this Northern Illinois game aside, but it's a matter of, like, you got to go out and win football games now. Like, there's no more room for error, and that's really not the game you wanted to lose, right? Like, if you lost to USC late in the season, you'd probably still be okay. But now it's a matter of, okay, got to find a way to win out. If they're a one-loss team at the end of the season, I think they'll still be okay, given that they're, kind of in that independent conference. They don't have a conference. I think they'll still be okay. But, it's time to win football games. No more screwing around. So, Marcus Freeman's found a way to win those big games or be in those big games. It's these smaller games that he's struggled with in the past couple of years here. So hopefully Notre Dame gets that sorted out. They find a way to still get into the playoff. It's 12-team playoff at the end of the day, Huss. Like,
exactly.
There's still opportunity. It's not like your season ends with a bad loss. That one just hurt a lot as 28.5-point underdog or favorites, I should say.
Anything you like for tomorrow? I mean, obviously we're right into the thick of the schedule, and we've got a big slate.
Yeah, we got the Saturday sweat coming up here, and the exclusive should be online shortly. Dog is on the case. I haven't done a deep dive. I usually do it Saturday morning, if I'm being honest with you, Huss. Who did I like this week, though? I think, Missouri. I do like Missouri minus 15.5 against Boston College. Boston College picked up a big win over Florida State, but I don't necessarily know if that was if that was more of an indictment on Boston College or if Florida State has just been bad to start this. Like, they're bad. We saw it against Georgia Tech in week 0, and then we saw it again in week 1. So I think there's going to be a lot of public money coming in on Boston College. I'm going to take the other side, take Missouri at home minus 15.5. That'll be the one play I give out. I'm also doing and I think I have this, I think it should be up in the cards right now for tonight. Kansas and Kansas State are both playing at home. I've called it There's No Place Like Home, just like Dorothy. Kansas, it's all right there. It's boosted up to minus 115 right now. So a slight boost. Like, they're both pretty heavy favorites. But if you do want a little college football action tonight, I've already jumped on this personally. But yeah, There's No Place Like Home combo card. Kansas Jayhawks and Kansas State Wildcats both to win.
Yeah, Kansas is a 9-point favorite at home against UNLV, and then an hour later, K-State, 7-point favorites against Arizona. Just quickly on Florida State, they've had this disastrous start to the season. 7-point favorites at home to Memphis. Do they get it turned around, or do you think we'll see a lot of people just fading the Seminoles considering the way they've started?
I'm sure there'll be people fading them. I think it's right now they're a stay away for me. I was actually on Boston College in the game in which they lost, the second game in which they lost. It's hard to ride with a team like Florida State. DJ Uiagalelei, sorry, his last name is so hard to pronounce, has looked truly awful. Like, from a guy who was a highly touted recruit at Clemson, came in after Trevor Lawrence. People thought he was going to be the guy Didn't work out there. He's moved around a little bit. Now he's with Florida State, and he has not looked good to start this season. I don't know if they get it turned around. Might be a throwaway season for Florida State, but really after that loss to Georgia last year, after they didn't get into the playoff as an undefeated team and then losing to Georgia by as many points as they did, in that bowl game, it's really been a downhill slide for them. So I'm not very high. Yeah, I'm not very high on Florida State. And I'll probably be a stay away from me for a little bit here to see what they end up doing.
All right, well, let's dive into the NFL. We got to get some best bets. We got to pick a little lock shop partner parlay coming up. Here are the games. I'll just run you down the spreads on all of them. The Ravens, 8.5-point favorites at home against the Raiders. The Chargers, coming off their big win against the Raiders last week, go to Carolina, who looked absolutely brutal last week. Chargers laying 5 on the road at Carolina. The Cowboys are -6 at home to the Saints. Detroit, 7.5-point home favorites to Tampa. Baker was awesome last week. The Colts laying 3 in Lambeau Field against the Green Bay Packers. Why, you ask? Because Malik Willis is the Green Bay Packers quarterback. The Jags, 3-point favorites at home against the Cleveland Browns. Minnesota, 5-point home dogs against the San Francisco 49ers. The Seahawks, 3.5-point favorites in New England. The Jets, a similar 3.5-point favorite in Tennessee and Nashville against the Titans. Giants and Commanders, Washington, a slight home favorite, 1.5 points. And then the late games, we've got Arizona and the Rams. Arizona, 1.5-point home favorites. Steelers laying 2.5 on the road in Denver. Big one between the Chiefs and Bengals at Arrowhead. 6 points for the Chiefs as the home favorite. Sunday nighter, Bears and Texans. The Texans, 6.5-point home favorites against Caleb Williams and the Bears. And we'll save the Monday nighter for next week. But it's the Eagles and the Falcons, 6.5-point favorites. Obviously, I've got 4 picks to get into. I'll lead to you. What's your favorite game of the week?
Yeah, I'm going back and forth here, Huss. I think I'm going to say the Rams, though. Rams plus 1.5 at Arizona. And this is very similar to last night. The same way the Buffalo Bills have owned the Miami Dolphins, the Los Angeles Rams have owned the Arizona Cardinals. McVay, 12-2-1 against the spread in his career against the Cardinals. The Rams are 9-0 against the spread in their last 9 visits to Arizona. So not only are they covering these spreads at home, they're covering these spreads on the road. The fact that we're getting them as a dog, I almost should have my fishy meter on here, but I think it's very similar to that Bills thing last night. It's just like they've owned the Cardinals, and I think they'll continue to own the Cardinals. Both teams pretty healthy outside of Puka going down last week. I think that's going to be a bit of a loss, but Stafford, Kupp have figured out a way to be dynamic, even with Kupp getting all the attention. And there's still some weapons on that Los Angeles Rams offense that I think can get it done. Kyron Williams, who we're going to get to later. I'll tease that in one of the guys we're going to get to later. What's the guy's name? I just picked him up in fantasy. Anyways, Demarcus Robinson. Yeah, that's who I was thinking of. Anyways, yeah, he'll be solid for them. Tyler Johnson, we saw, had a nice little game last week as well. So, I'm going to take the Rams, I think, as my favorite game, plus 1.5. Even if money line, I don't mind. That's probably how I'll end up betting it. But, we might as well take that point just in case something crazy happens. I also checked last year, the Rams were 4-2-1 as a road dog, even though it's slight. In 2023, road dogs, they were 4-2-1. So, yeah, I like the Rams this week. I think the Cardinals are solid. Obviously they showed a great first half against the Bills last week, but I think at the end of the day, the Rams own the Cardinals, and I'm going to take the team who's owned them going forward here.
Yeah, that division in particular has teams like, no matter what, the Seahawks always play the Rams super tough.
Right.
This is a little surprising to see Arizona a favorite. I I think there are concerns with the state of the line of the Rams. The interior of their offensive line is banged up, and they've got a few guys out, and that I think is probably part of this. But I can't say that I'm that I don't like that pick. It's hard to. The Rams being at 0-2 would be surprising, especially considering how tight they played Detroit coming back on that Sunday nighter. I'm going to start off with taking the Cowboys at home, -6. I'm a Cowboy hater. This is not a team that I'm normally on, but they really impressed me last week. I mean, you go into Cleveland, and we can talk all we want about the Browns. The Browns defense has some players on that, and they got absolutely torched by the Dallas Cowboys. And I don't know about you, but I'm still in wait-and-see mode about the Saints. I mean, they exploded in their home opener. They put up 47 against the Panthers at the Superdome. We all know that this is a very different team away from the Dome. And I kind of think that Dallas, after that great start, coming back for their home opener, new contract for Dak, I think they sort of eat in this game. And if it was less than a touchdown, I was going to get on the Cowboys.
I said I was going back and forth between two picks. The Cowboys were the other pick. So I think we already got a little parlay coming together really nicely. Yeah, a couple trends, because I know Patty likes to bring the trends to the table. I'll give you a few. Dennis Allen, 7-16 straight up, 5-16-2 against the spread following a straight up win. And they're a little banged up. Marshawn Lattimore didn't practice. Tyrann Mathieu is limited at practice. So that secondary is a little banged up right now for the Saints. They got a few other injuries. Like, I went to the injury report today before we got on the show, and I was like, the Saints had the longest list of injuries. I was like, oh my gosh. Like, some of these guys are full participants, but they're a bit banged up. Cowboys 6-3 against the spread at home in 2023, but their average margin of victory, 17.3 points. So Cowboys get back home. It's the home opener too, Huss, where you're coming off a big win against the Browns. I think this is another statement win for the Cowboys. They also, a couple more things. They were 10-4 against the spread last year as a favorite, and Dak is 27-13 against the spread as a favorite since 2019. So, the Cowboys are one of those teams that, they tend to win those games with the big spreads. They cover those games with the big spreads. But when it comes down to playing those tougher opponents, they got to go on the road. Like, that's when you get a weird feeling about the boys. So I love the boys. I think they're actually going to end up being my survivor pick for this week. So if anyone's doing survivor, if anyone's still alive,
did you make it through week one?
Yeah, I had the Seahawks. I just faded the rookie QBs. I had the Seahawks. My other buddies had Tampa, and we both ended up being pretty okay by the second half there. But yeah, I stayed away from the Bengals.
How many people in your pool, and how many people, what percentage of the pool is out in week one because of Cincinnati?
Yeah, my buddy sent over the numbers. I don't have them off the top of my head, but it's a pretty big pool of people, and I think probably like 66% were out on that loss. Still a good chunk of people. I think it was over like 3,000 that had signed up, so it's like a big pool.
Big pool.
Yeah, we kind of just got in on it late, and to see the Bengals lose in week one, it's nice. It's nice to, like, all of a sudden you get a feeling you're like, maybe, I know it's only week two, but it's like, maybe a couple more upsets, and, we could be staring down the barrel of some big money here. So we'll see. But I think Cowboys will be my pick for this week.
All right, so we love the Cowboys. That's excellent. My second pick, you mentioned fading the rookie QBs. I'm going to do the opposite and kind of buy low on the Chicago Bears in Houston on the Sunday nighter. Listen, Houston looked awesome, and they were able to, score against a pretty good Colts defense. And listen, I think CJ Stroud is going to get his, but let's not forget the reason why the Bears won this football game last week had nothing to do with their offense. It was their defense and their special teams, which I do think are going to be, they'll come ready to play. To me, this is about Caleb Williams. Can he kind of get over some of the stage fright that they might have had in week number one? And I think doing it on the road, albeit in prime time, a good spot for him to kind of show what he can do. I just find that this line is big. And I think that, because of how much hype and attention there was on the first game, I think people are a little a little more sour on the Bears than they probably should be. Like, if you can sort of take away just the reaction of week number 1, I would have thought this game would be more around 4.5. I still think that there's value here on the Texans to keep this to on the Bears to keep this to a 1-score game. And I do expect more from Caleb Williams in start number 2 than what he showed or didn't show, spinning around, taking sacks, and just not really looking comfortable in game 1 of the league.
Yeah, listen, I mean, I think there's something there. And that was one of the games we kind of circled when speaking of Survivor, kind of one of those games where we circle, we're like, okay, maybe Houston this week. But my concern is that, it's prime time. The lights are bright. Like, I think Caleb Williams shows up to this game. Obviously he didn't make a huge statement in week 1. And it was more the Bears defense that was the big performers. I think Caleb Williams says, okay, like, I'm here. I'm going to be a big player in this league. I'm a little concerned. I think Keenan Allen and Rome Odunze were both banged up, but I don't mind it, Huss. I think in a primetime slot, taking the dog of that many points isn't the worst decision. So I'm with you there.
All right, this one might surprise some people. And listen, I don't want to say that I'm fully on the Sammy Darts bandwagon, but very impressed with what the Vikings did last week. Now, listen, I know they were on the road against the Giants, and the Giants stink. San Francisco is on a short week, likely no Christian McCaffrey. And like, if you look back the last couple seasons, this has been a very, very tough place for San Francisco to play. Brock Purdy got spooked last year against the Vikings in the Dome. And it is going to be loud there. They're going to be fired up with that the home opener. And like everything, when you look at these two teams, would suggest to you San Francisco is going to run away with this. It just doesn't always work that way. And I really do think that Darnold, if he can get off to a good start in this game, can keep them in it. They're going to have to be able to stop the run a hell of a lot better than the Jets did. The Jets had absolutely no answer for that. And, this could look like a bad pick if they end up running all over them the way they did against the Jets. But I know part of it is a little bit of history about the way Minnesota's played at home. Partly, I just think that people are underestimating what the Vikings have team-wise. And listen, I love what KOC does. And I think he's going to put Sam Darnold in a position to succeed. That being said, San Francisco is still a beast of a team. I just think this could be a close one. And you can tell that some people, I mean, it's in that Vegas zone if you'd like it. Shout out Bill Simmons. Like the 5-point spread, even if it moves a half point either way, it won't really change that much. I think at the start, this was actually like a 6-point game or so, and we've seen it come down. So I'm going to jump on the Vikings. I won't be throwing that one up for any parlays, but Vikings +5 for my other pick. You got a pick or two you want to get to before I fire out my last one and get to Dusty's?
Yeah. I obviously I had the Cowboys, so that was one of them. But I know we usually go spreads here. I am going to go a little off the beaten path. I know Patty likes to do that too with some player props. I'm actually going to a team total though. I like the Lions this week. I think their team total right now, you can get over 30 at -118. Even if you want to go 30.5, we're looking at 4 touchdowns and a field goal. Listen, the Lions are indoor cats. They had a nice home win in overtime last week against the Rams. And that overtime drive was impressive. They just said, hey, we're going to hand the ball off every single play here and just finish you off with the run. And it was super impressive. The Bucs are really banged up right now. I think they have a lot of defensive guys down, and I think it's going to affect them. There's a ton of weapons out there for the Lions to use. This is the biggest point total on the board right now, the only total over 50 points this week. But I'm just going to stick with the Lions. I'm going to take their team total over 30, or even, like I said, 30.5. Lions have scored 30-plus points at home in 11 of 17 home games in the last 2 seasons. So, they tend to play really well inside the Dome. They haven't had to do any traveling this week. They stay home. They get the Bucs, who are already banged up to start the season. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a heavy game from, all those Detroit weapons. And you can really spread the wealth however you like. Jameson Williams, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Gibbs, Montgomery, the way he played last week, Laporta. I think it's totally up to the Lions to just put some points on the board. I think that's what we see this week. So that's the other pick I'm going with. I didn't have a fourth one, Huss, but, I will, for your sake, I'll do this. And I'll take the Chiefs -6. Burrow and crew have struggled in the first 2 weeks of the season. I believe he's 1-8 now. In the first, and 1-8 straight up in the first 2 weeks of the season since entering the league. Chiefs are on a little bit of extra rest. I know we've talked a little bit about rest already today. They're on a little bit extra rest with that Thursday nighter. Now they get a Sunday against the Bengals, kind of in their own little slot at 425. Only a few games there this week. And listen, the Bengals have been talking some shit. I'm sure you've seen it. We're already getting Xavier Worthy talk 1 week in. So I've got my eye on Worthy. I'm circling him. I'm definitely going to get on either receptions or yards because I know Mahomes is going to be like, all right, this guy can only do this. Well, see if you can stop it. And I think we're going to get a big Xavier Worthy game. And I just think, after losing last week, why are the Bengals just keep your mouth shut if you're the Bengals?
They can't
why
help
are you
themselves.
adding fuel to the fire? Why are you we talked about poking the bear way back. Remember that whole huge conversation? I said, why are you poking the Kansas City Chiefs? Why are you giving them any reason to want to go out and beat up on you? They got to go to KC after losing at home to the Patriots in week 1. I'll take the Chiefs -6. Listen, just keep your mouth shut. Just worry about football. T. Higgins is still hurt. Jamar Chase, I think will have a better game than he did in week 1, but I don't know. Burrow didn't look necessarily that impressive in his first week of play. I think he's still catching up. And like I said, he really struggles in those first 2 weeks. So I know it's a big spread, but there's a reason it's a big spread.
Yeah, listen, I stayed away from this game. I mean, I'm sort of with you. And there is a lot of fuel to the fire. These teams hate each other. Under normal circumstances, looking at 6, these teams have played so tight. Joe Burrow has had some success historically against the Chiefs. I'd go the other way, but with everything surrounding the Bengals right now, the way they've started, what's happening with Kansas City, the lead in, all the smack talk, the Chiefs won't be calling off the dogs. So I kind of do like that one as well. My last pick, and I usually don't take big favorites, but I just can't not take the Ravens at home to the Raiders. I think we saw what the Raiders are, a very, very mid team last week. Losing to the Chargers. They have to go to Baltimore and play a team that is elite, one of the top teams in the league, coming off of a loss where I'm sure they felt like they probably deserved a better fate. They came back. They were going to go for 2, an inch or whatever, and it's a no touchdown, and they end up losing and not even covering the spread. I think this one could get completely out of hand. I know Antonio Pierce says the guy's gone. He's a big defensive coach. There's so many weapons on that Baltimore team. And, because of the pressure that the Chiefs got on the Ravens last week, it really was all on Lamar. I don't think Lamar has to go as crazy. I think this will be a big Derrick Henry game. I think a lot of their playmakers kind of get involved. And this could be a long afternoon for the Raiders. So I will lay the 8.5 for my final pick. So I'm going to take 2 dogs, Vikings +5, Bears +6.5, the Cowboys -6, and the Ravens -8.5. Now, Dusty sent me his picks. See where Dusty's at.
The one thing I'll say on the Ravens, the Raiders got gashed in the run last week. J.K. Dobbins had a couple huge carries.
Great point.
If they're giving up gashes like that to, not only Derrick Henry, but Lamar Jackson as well, it's going to be a long day for the Ravens in Baltimore. Like you said, Ravens probably playing a little pissed off. I think Harbaugh's going to have those guys ready to go. I'm totally fine with that pick.
All right, so here's what Dusty's cooking up. He is on, we are on all different games. This is great. He is on the Jags -3.
I had them circled earlier. I just didn't end up sticking with it.
Jags -3. He likes the Jets -3.5 in Tennessee against the Titans. He is with you on the Rams at +1.5.
So we're adding that for sure.
Yep, definitely. And the Commanders at -1.5. We didn't talk too much about this game. I mean, Jaden Daniels is going to get his for fantasy purposes. Can the Giants look any better this week on the road against Washington as opposed to what they did at home against the Vikings? I don't know. I don't really mind that. And obviously, we're going to be hearing about Jaden Daniels as well from Dusty when we get to our touchdown parlay. So, what do we have here? We definitely will put the Rams +1.5 on this.
I think the Cowboys -5.5 is for sure as well.
Cowboys -5.5.
Like I said, between them and the Rams, they were my two favorites.
So we've got the Rams and the Cowboys. What do we think? How about the Commanders -1.5?
Yeah, I mean, I think if we're taking Commander, why don't we just go money line? -120 is not bad.
Yeah, I agree.
We just don't have to worry about that. Don't have to worry about that 1.5. +534 with those three.
Perfect.
Do 3 or 4? Is it 3?
No, let's go 3. Let's go the 3 banger. We'll do 4 with the touchdown prop. So Commanders money line, Rams +1.5, Cowboys -5.5.
Yep.
We'll lock that in for the partner parlay. And listen, before we wrap, we've got to get to our touchdown scorers. Dusty wants Jaden Daniels getting into the end zone, and I love this pick. I will be playing this individually, and I'll be loving it for fantasy. Jaden Daniels +125 for the Lock Shop House callers of the day. What are you looking at, and what does Patty have for it?
Yeah, I'll start with Patty. He's got, I mentioned him earlier, Kyren Williams. That's his touchdown scorer. He didn't say much else off of that. Usually he has some stats and stuff, but totally fine with that. We're on the Rams. Kyren Williams was a touchdown machine a season ago. I have no issue with that. Myself, I've already talked about this game. I talked about the Lions team total. I think they're going to put up some points this week against a banged-up Buccaneers defense. I'm taking Amon-Ra this week. I think he's coming off a poor week, 13 yards on 3 receptions. I think it's a great spot to bounce back, like I said, against a banged-up Buccaneers team. And, yeah, I don't really have much else besides that. I'm going to take Amon-Ra. Listen, I'm the guy who gave out Aaron Jones last week, and that was the first one we got off the board. I know Dusty beat up on me for that. I don't know how he's going to beat up on me for Amon-Ra St. Brown because that's his guy.
He loves
who I'm
that
taking
guy.
this week. That's who I'm taking this week.
All right. So, and as I said, Dusty's in with Jaden Daniels. I was just pulling up a couple numbers. The 2 guys that I first went to, I think they're just so chalky. Derrick Henry is -200 to get in the end zone against the Raiders. And I'll tell you what, the Breece Hall number isn't much different. -189. So I think we have to pivot. We have to pivot to somebody else. I am looking at that Garrett Wilson number, which is not too bad at 163.
I'm just going to look around at some of the bigger totals on the board. I like to look at the totals and think, okay, well, the book thinks they're going to score points. So, who's going to score those points?
Yeah, I'm looking at, Pacheco -120.
Yep.
I can sort of live with that. I can see Kelsey's +138, Zach Moss +138 in that game. And then we go to Rashee Rice at +188. Oh, Xavier Worthy at +188.
Listen, I'm going to be all over Worthy this week because why in the world would you want to talk junk about him right now? Especially after how great of a week 1 he had.
Well, exactly, and I don't mind the I do not mind the narrative. What do we have for Jonathan Taylor today? Ooh, Jonathan Taylor is even money, +100 to get in. And then what about our Cowboys ones? Zeke, CeeDee Lamb, Alvin Kamara. Tell you what, let's go CeeDee Lamb We like the Cowboys.
I like it.
This is so CeeDee Lamb, Daniels, Kyron Williams, and who was yours again?
Amon-Ra.
And yeah, St. Brown. Anytime touchdown parlay. We were 3 for 4 last week. Let's see if we can run the table. We got CeeDee, we got Jalen Daniels, we got Kyron Williams, and we've got Amon-Ra St. Brown. We will put that
I'm
up.
just going to say, you took CeeDee. I love that. Coming into the show, I had 3 wide receivers circled this week. Amon-Ra, I think good bounce back spot for him against a banged up Buccaneers D. Worthy, please stop talking shit to the Chiefs. You're just giving them a reason to beat you up. So I imagine he's going to have a big game. And I do like Brandon Cooks. Jake Ferguson going down last week obviously it's a fairly big loss for the Cowboys. You don't really think about it too much, but a guy like that, a big target down in the red zone, you lose him, hurts a little bit. I think he's going to be all right, but I don't know if it's going to be this week. So I do like Brandon Cooks. I think maybe his reception number or even his yards, I don't mind. A lot of attention goes to CeeDee Lamb. And I think, Cooks is a guy who's already played a year with Dak. They have a bit of familiarity. I think he has a nice little game. So I picked him up in a few leagues. Maybe I'm a little biased, but that is a guy that I have my eyes on as well.
Hey, it's great to see everybody in chat having a good time. And yeah, Jake will check the Discord afterwards. You guys have been coming up with some beauties in the D-Gen Den. And I do see La Bamba guy is with me on the Vikes. Skull, baby, riding the points. Yeah, I think this will be a close game right now. So we will put that up. We've got the partner parlay, which is Cowboys minus 5.5, Rams plus 1.5, Commanders money line. And stay tuned to the exclusives and the combo cards. You never know what else might get popped up. Big Maple has some USA picks. He said it's going to be the Sugar Show after tomorrow night. Barab can get O'Malley down to the mat. Sugar has great BJJ, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I know what that is. Submission not out of the question. As I say, I always like to check out Big Maple's picks because it is the no-brainer. Opt in on the UFC. Basically, you make a $25 bet for UFC on the weekend. Win or lose, you get a $25 free bet on Monday, which you can use for Monday Night Football. Jake, what's coming up in the exclusives? I guess you guys are going to first of all kick out some stuff for college football tomorrow, and then we'll be firing it up for the big NFL Sunday.
Yeah, I know you got to go here in a sec, but we do have a few exclusives already online. The Saturday Sweat, me and Patty always put one together. We tease a few numbers down in college ball. This week we got Alabama minus 9.5, Missouri minus 9.5. That was my pick. I mentioned them earlier. Utah State plus 24.5, and Indiana plus 3.5. That's paying plus 350 in the lock shop section of the exclusives right now. Patty G's tease is already live for NFL Week 2. Ravens minus 2.5, Seahawks plus 2.5, and Bucks Detroit over 45.5, which I do like that number. I've already talked about that, in ad nauseum. And then I didn't realize we didn't get the CFL parlay up yesterday, so it's up now. BC Lions minus 4.5, Ticats plus 4.5, and Alouettes minus 5.5. That's what Maddie told me today. Well, they were on EST, so that's what I went with, plus 575 in the lock shop exclusive section as well. And then some Coolbet exclusives for the NFL. I'll wrap up here. Indoor Cats, Goff, 2+ passing TDs, Gibbs, anytime touchdown, Laporta, 5+ receptions, and Lions to cover 6.5 at plus 425. Catches and cash it. Cooper Kupp, 8+ receptions, Garrett Wilson, 6+ receptions, Justin Jefferson, 7+ receptions at plus 450. The pick parlay for this week is Stafford, Geno Smith, and Bryce Young, all to throw an interception. The pay dirt parlay is Derrick Henry, Kenneth Walker, and Jonathan Taylor, all to record. Oh, that says passing TDs. That should be one touch, anytime TDs. I'll get that fixed. And then the dual threat delights, Lamar Jackson and Jaden Daniels, each to record 1+ passing TD and 1+ rushing TD. And then we got a couple for your game, Huss. Burrowhead, Joe Burrow, 2+ passing TDs, 280+ passing yards, Bengals plus 5.5, or the Kingdom Come, Mahomes, 2+ passing TDs. Pacheco anytime. Chris Jones sack, and Chiefs -2.5. So those are all available right now in the exclusives. I do have another one coming for the Den. I know that's probably going to end up being the exclusives today as well. And then a few combos as well. There's the EST Early Bird. This one was made on Monday or Tuesday. I think it was Tuesday. Chargers -6.5. Bucks +7.5. Commanders money line. That must be Dusty rolling in that Commanders money line again.
Yeah.
And then the random wheel. This is a big conversation around EST right now. I will have the video coming out, the clip coming out from earlier in the week. They do have the Bucks again, +7.5. They got the Jets money line and the Falcons +6.5 on Monday night. Those are the three from the random wheel. If that one cashes, I think they're going to have to do the random wheel again in week 3. So we're interested to see. Those are available now too. Like I said, the No Place Like Home combos available. Both Kansas teams to win tonight. And a couple UFC ones. We also got our guy, Brett Loudler. He's been doing kicking parlay. We rolled it out in week 1. We got another one for week 2. It's Loudler's legs. So it's I don't want to botcher this guy's name, but Richard over 5.5. He kicks for the Vikings. Jason Myers over 6.5 points for the Seattle Seahawks. And Boswell over 6.5 points for the Pittsburgh Steelers. They had a big week in week 1, and you got the little bit of elevation there in Denver. I don't mind that at all. I've actually already circled that one as, we only do the field goals usually in prime time. I think that might be one that I'm taking the field goals in, Huss.
The kickers union is fired up after week 1. There was some big time points. What was it? Moody, the guy on the Niners, had 26 points for me in fantasy on Monday night. It was just it was bananas, but hey, we'll take all the points. All right, gang. So get to the exclusives. All of our stuff is up there. Again, my selections for our best bets, 2-1-1 last week. Let's try and keep it going. I got Ravens -8.5, Cowboys -6, Vikes +5, Bears +6.5, and Dusty is on Jaguars -3, Jets -3.5, Rams +1.5, and the Commanders -1.5. He does like the Jaden Daniels touchdown as well. Jake, thanks for doing this. Have a great weekend, my man, and good luck to you, and we'll look forward to catching up next week.
Yeah, Huss, if you wrote down those touchdown scores, send them my way. I'll get something up, probably exclusives for that one as well. We had a little issue last week with, I don't know if it was because of the big number, but we had a little issue with the cards last week for that one, so we'll go exclusives again to be safe.
Perfect. Yeah. Lamb, Daniels, Kyron Williams, Antonio, or Amon-Ra St. Brown. Let's get it, folks. Enjoy the weekend. It should be a great one. We'll see you back here Monday in the Lock Shop, everybody. Promo code Lock Shop over at Coolbet. If you haven't played there before, 100% bonus up to $200 on your first deposit. For Jake, I'm Huss. Have a great weekend. We'll see you Monday right back here on EST.